This is Murat Demetnejad. To me, the most striking thing about Chax Publishers is the number of poets I've met there for the first time and kept reading and following years afterwards. For example, Ling Ding, Standard Schaefer, Jennifer Bartlett, Nick Piambino, Hank Lazar. This is due, I think, Charles Alexander's unprejudiced, discerning taste as a reader of poetry and as a publisher, his ability to take risks when he feels the poet needs to be known by other poets and by other readers. As a result, Chax authors cover the range of American poetry. For example, Charles Bernstein, Leslie Scalapino, Alice Notley, Benjamin Hollander, Tracy Morris, Will Alexander, Trace Peterson, Charles Brohus, Peter Valenti, etc., etc. Also, Chax publishes the most beautiful poetry books, in my opinion, among independent book publishers. Besides Charles Alexander's background as a printer, I think this has to do with Charles's great respect for the work of the poets, authors he's publishing. For all these reasons, I think Chax deserves every help that can be provided for it, and for the sake of American poetry in general.
Chax Press, a vital poetry rhizome, so important to our world, been in business over 30 years with gorgeous productions and important for our survival. So I'd like to read a little bit from this manifesto. I've always been grateful for the freedom to make my work and to be part of poetry cultures that have had real presence and force in the world, that continue to provide nourishment and commitment and the time tithe on a continuous life adjacent to these feeds to benefit others. These sites and utopias and resistances and fellaheen worlds are practices. They are not pre-cooked, yet they seem to strive outside the establishment, whatever that is, and to strive outside official culture, whatever that is, and outside politics and media, we know what that is, and stride beyond short-sighted economic blasts in that they are vision-generated. The thrust of our projects is ageless, ritualistic, often endangered, the edge of the precipice.
Hi, this is Kenny Nathanson in Tucson. Really enjoying the opportunity to talk to you quickly about Chax Press. So I'd like to start by showing you a couple pictures of beautiful Tucson where Chax is, and see there's no big lake in Tucson. That's worse. There's no Chinese pagoda there either. Here we go. Here's Charles Alexander along with the poet James Sherry in beautiful Tucson. No, that's Westlake in Hangzhou, China. There's one more here. Oh, it's Charles again. That's great, but it's not Tucson, it's Hangzhou. Well, since I stumbled on that, I should say that I was lucky enough to go to Hangzhou for the conference of the Chinese and American Association for Poetry and Poetics, along with Charles and Chax Press, who invited me to accompany them, and that Chax is absolutely revered as a press in China, as Charles is as a poet, and you can look for publications of Chinese poets is part of the Chax Press list, and you can look for Charles to be traveling internationally and peddling his wares in China as well, and the poets that he champions. As you know, probably the Chax list is quite remarkable. As you can see, if you can see this all right, the list of poets is kind of a who's who of American innovative poetry. And although you can't see the insides of the books just from the covers, the press is really unique in terms of the design skill set and the individual care that's lavished on each of these really important books. And then finally, I'd like to say back here in Tucson, which I won't show you a picture of, that Chax is absolutely crucial to the literary poetic life of Tucson, and that the avant-garde or experimental poetry scene and all the activity that goes on here, which is pretty well known in the avant-garde poetry community around the country, simply would not continue without Charles and Chax Press, because their role is completely irreplaceable. So it's a great pleasure to ask you to join me in championing and supporting Chax Press. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Hi, I'm Sarah Rosenthal, and my Chax books are Lizard and the forthcoming Estelle Meaning Star. But long before I became somebody in the Chax family, the press played a crucial role in my formation as a poet and reader of poetry. I remember early on works by Nate Mackey, Myung-Mi Kim, and Beverly Dahlin just burning themselves into my consciousness and serving as key exemplars and mentors. And what's been really interesting is that at each phase of my own continuing evolution, Chax is right there with new titles that feel urgent and that feed me. I think of Trace Peterson's book, Since I Moved In, or Jennifer Bartlett's book, A Lullaby Without Any Music, Limerence and Lux by Saba Sayed Razvi, or A Night on the Sun by Will Alexander, way too many to name. Chax models this exemplary inclusiveness and sets up these fascinating kaleidoscopic relationships between titles in its evolving list. When I pick up a Chax book, I'm picking up a book selected and made by a publisher with many years of experience in book arts and fine arts and poetry writing. And the lion's share of the list are produced using standard contemporary technology, but every book feels infused to me with this acute attention to word and line and page and volume that seem to be a natural outgrowth, both for me, again, this is my thinking, see what you think, but for me, they feel like a natural outgrowth both of Charles's abiding love of letterpress projects and his own practice as a poet. I also sense the welcome influence of visual arts director Cynthia Miller, an accomplished visual artist who's provided covers for a number of Chax titles. And I also feel the presence of interns and advisors who I know Charles readily invites into the process. Again, from my own personal experience, I know that Charles tunes in not just to the written work, but also to the poet behind the words in the process of bringing out a book. He dialogues about choices along the way in a way that feels, for me, respectful and kind. So Chax is grounded, I think, in an idealistic vision of poetry making the world a better, kinder, and more vivid place to live. But what's crucial is that it marries that idealism to decades of know-how and hard work and collaboration, creating this remarkable track record of inspiring books and this energized commitment to continuing to surf the edge of innovative writing for many years to come. We've never needed Chax more than we do at this juncture, and I hope you'll continue getting involved. Thank you so much.
My name is Charles Bernstein.
And I'm Susan B.
And we're here in Brooklyn, New York, Carroll Gardens, in our home where we've been much too long. Getting ready to return to the world. But during these times, I turn to my Chax Press books. Is that a good line, you think, Susan?
Yes, I do think so. And I also think that we're both very happy to have been published by Chax in the past and look forward to reading more Chax Press books coming right up.
So we go way back with Chax Press, even from the time that Charles Alexander was in Milwaukee, and we were part of a conference that he organized on the book arts, because Susan is a book artist.
I think it was Minneapolis.
Minneapolis. Oh my God.
But anyway, we did go to the book arts conference, and we went to visit Charles and Cynthia in Tucson many times.
And the book art conference produced the book, the book called Reading the Boundless Book.
It could be that was
something like that. And, hopefully I'll get my place names and titles. I didn't script this short video. He did these beautiful letterpress books and one-of-a-kind books, of which he's done a couple of mine. And Susan and I did together a also beautiful fold-out book. It's a kind of a very limited edition.
Called Fool's Gold.
Yeah, and it's one of my favorite books in collaboration with Charles Alexander. And he's done it, in addition to the tiny number of books he's done with us, in comparison, a lot for us, but in comparison to the huge list of both trade books and unique artists' books, publishing, for me, publishing some of the most significant, for me, poets in the U.S., and making his list really one of the great resources for American poetry. So I'm very grateful to Charles Alexander and Chax Press.
So I suggest that you all support Chax Press, which is a great ongoing enterprise, and we have Charles Alexander to thank for that.
Small presses can only exist through the support of the poets contributing their work, readers reading it, but also those of us who can, giving money to pay for the printing and the mailing. And it's crucial that this source of artistic imagination thrive in the United States.
Amen to that.